Welcome back to In Pursuit of Truth. I am your host, Sir Patrick Mack. We've got 4 new Q posts. We're going to dig right in. Are you ready? Well, you might want to stretch first. All right, don't pull a hammy doing this. Here we go. 42 minutes after the hour of 8, Q is responding to a couple graphics here regarding McMaster's. Officials investigating suspicious death of McMaster's father. And I'll just read this part at the bottom here because it covers it. Sources: officials investigating death of father of former Trump national security advisor. And then it gives a link here. The health department confirms he died of blunt impact trauma to the head, and the manner of death was determined to be an accident. But sources tell CBS 3 that Philadelphia police and the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office are investigating the possibility of institutional neglect after he fell. And Q responds, 187. Failure to retain position/ear. Threats are real. War is real. Good versus evil is real. Think State of the Union free. Coincidence? Delta engine fire. Coincidence? How rare are engine fires? Think logically. Q. 44 minutes after the hour of 8, responding to an Anon who leaves a little graphic here. Q says fake. 46 minutes after the hour of 9, Q is responding to this from Breaking 911's tweet. Breaking: Governor Jerry Brown says California has reached agreement with the Trump administration on National Guard border mission. Associated Press. And Q says he had no choice. Q. And your last Q post for tonight is 17 minutes after the hour of 12. Why are D's aggressively attacking Pruitt? Why is the MSM aggressively attacking Pruitt? Then we've got a New York Post link. And Q says, are you awake? Okay, those are your Q posts. Let's take a look at them. What do you say? Starting back at our first post at 42 minutes past the hour of 8, Q is responding to this right here. Now, we have an article, and I'll just read you probably the bottom part of it. We'll cover this really quickly. Sources: officials investigating death of father of former Trump national security advisor. This is H.R. McMaster's. And this the man who died was H.R. McMaster's Sr. And let me just take you to this article actually real quick. It's a little bit more thorough. This is off the Daily News. Ex-Trump National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster's father's death being investigated as suspicious. Pennsylvania authorities are investigating ex-Trump National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster's father's death as suspicious. H.R. McMaster Sr. died on April 13th after he allegedly fell, hit his head, and was placed on a chair without receiving the proper medical treatment at Cathedral Village in Philadelphia, ABC 6 reported. And this goes on to say, too, that police searched Cathedral Village Tuesday. The facility says it's cooperating. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. McMaster was living in the facility after suffering a stroke. The Philadelphia police, the district attorney's office, and other agencies are investigating his death. And if we go back to the Q post here, it says, under number 2, but sources tell CBS 3 that Philadelphia police and the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office are investigating the possibility of institutional neglect after he fell. Okay, so H.R. McMaster Sr. in a nursing home had a blunt impact trauma to the head. Could have just fallen. It happens all the time. Older people can fall. The man had a stroke and whatever. And evidently that was determined to be an accident. But this protocol wasn't handled, and now they're looking at institutional neglect. Now, it could be just one of those creepy situations that kind of happens every once in a while. Q thinks differently. Q says 187. 187 is code for murder. Failure to retain position and ear. Okay, so what does this mean? Well, H.R. McMaster's, if you remember, was the national security advisor, and he was ousted recently in lieu of John Bolton, which was also a surprise because well, let's just say H.R. McMaster's didn't necessarily get on that well with Trump anyway, but that wasn't necessarily a big deal. Now, later on, we started to kind of suspect in the Q narrative that H.R. McMaster's might have been a security leak. So, was this a spy? Was this or just somebody who was leaking information? But it sounds like Q saying that McMaster's had failed to retain his position, meaning he had been fired. He wasn't useful anymore, and he no longer either had the ear of President Trump or vice versa, and be able to kind of turn around and share this information. These threats are real. War is real. Good versus evil is real. Well, of course it is, folks. So Q is implying that. Now, of course, if you fail this cabal, they're not going to go straight for you. They're going to go for your family. That's going to be something that's a very, very real threat, and it's going to make a statement. Okay, so we'll have to kind of wait to see what happens with that, but very evil indeed. So then Q goes on to say, think State of the Union free. Well, the State of the Union was talking very much about the infestation of our own government, really. And I don't want to go way into that. You can go back and look at the speech. It's a great speech. We've all probably heard it before. But the point is that, yeah, we're draining the swamp, and this swamp got drained. And because this guy couldn't keep this close position, that's what you get when you play big league ball, folks. Okay? People get hurt. I think you understand. Q goes on to say, coincidence, Delta engine fire? Coincidence? How rare are engine fires? We talk about Delta engine fire. We just had a Southwest engine fire. We can't have a Delta engine fire. Yes, we can, folks. This is off of Market Watch as of April 18th. Smoking engine forces Delta plane to return to Atlanta after takeoff. A smoking engine forced a Delta Airlines Incorporated flight bound for London to return to Atlanta shortly after takeoff Wednesday afternoon, a day after another Delta takeoff was aborted due to engine trouble. Firefighters at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport doused the plane's engine, and no injuries were reported. Okay, so now Delta has had a couple problems this week. This is one blown engine, or one engine that caught fire, and the other one looks like they had engine problems too. So it goes on to say it was the second recent scary incident for Delta. On Tuesday, a Delta flight from Providence, Rhode Island to Atlanta was forced to abort takeoff after it experienced engine trouble, according to WPRI News. No one was hurt in that incident either. Also, Tuesday, a passenger was killed on a Southwest Airlines company, and you guys remember that flight from New York to Dallas after an engine blew out mid-flight. That was from last night's video if you haven't seen it. It was the first passenger death in Southwest history and the first fatality on a U.S. commercial flight since 2009. Okay, well, their first one in history. That's very interesting. And of course, Q says, how rare are engine fires? Well, if you want to go by this week, I guess you could have about 3 a week. But we don't have 3 a week. We hardly have any. As a matter of fact, folks, it's in the millions. Okay, you can look it up yourself. It's very, very low. It's very rare. Okay, Q says, think logically. So clearly, this is the war. These are the threats that are very, very real. And evidently, even if you play on the wrong side, if you don't win, you don't retain your position, those things can result in some very, very unfortunate circumstances. I think you understand what's going on. We're moving on to 44 minutes after the hour of 8. And folks, I hope you don't mind, and I'm not trying to be dismissive. It takes you to this graphic right here. Excuse me, that's not the right graphic. I think I might have already taken it down. Yeah, it takes you to this graphic, and it's a bunch of Q-looking stuff. It's like these side-by-side narratives, but I don't know who made them. And Anon just posts it, and Q says it's fake. So I'd rather move on. I don't even want to bother reading it. You can read it if you want on somebody else's channel. There it is if you want to stop the video for a second and look at it. Other than that, if it's fake, why bother entertaining it? You guys aren't here for fake news. All right. 46 minutes after the hour of 9, Q's responding to breaking 911. Breaking, Governor Jerry Brown says California has reached an agreement with the Trump administration on National Guard border mission, Associated Press. Q says he had no choice. Well, of course he had no choice. He wasn't going to do this. He wasn't going to go easily. He wasn't going easily at all. It was practically, it felt like civil war almost. Jerry Brown was talking real tough. And if you remember, President Trump and Governor Brown were kind of going back and forth in this big tweet storm. You can look it up if you'd like. I don't want to go way into it. But the point is that Jerry Brown never really had a choice. And this is off the Daily Stormer. As of today, Jerry Brown pulls out a border deal. It's almost like old Jerry only agreed to this in the first place so he could look like a hero by backing out of it. Like he's forcing my hand, but the people demand I fight. So fight I shall. And this guy says it's really gay. So I don't want to go way into this either, but you know what's going on. He had to make a deal. Well, why did he have to make a deal? Because we're in a national emergency, remember. Folks, President Trump declared a state of emergency a long time ago, which authorizes him to do what he needs to do. Authorizes him to move the National Guard if he needs to move the Army, he can. Now, there were a few states that didn't want to move their troops through the border, and I think some of that's still going on. I think Montana was one of them that didn't. Many did, but many were kind of going, against it. And of course, Jerry Brown was sort of leading that charge, by saying no way. And of course, it's so important in California. Why, folks? It's their biggest cash cow. These are where the big tunnels are, and believe me, there are tunnels on that border, folks. There are massive tunnels on that border. Everything's going through there, and everything's going out of there. Is that where our uranium was going out? Is that where all our money was going out? Illegals are coming in. Okay, MS-13's coming in, weapons coming in. Who knows what's coming in, folks? Next thing you know, Buddy's on a boat to Tijuana. You get the idea, right? Let's move on. Now we're here at 17 minutes after the hour of 12. Why are Democrats aggressively attacking Pruitt? Why is the MSM aggressively attacking Pruitt? And then we have a New York Post article link, and then Are You Awake? Q. Okay, well, the New York Post article is this. And if you don't mind, I'd actually like to start you on a different one, which would be right here. This is from the LA Times. Trump's EPA embraces an odd argument against fuel economy. It will kill people. Well, that sounds like a really extreme kind of thing. His argument is going to kill people. This is as of today. The Trump administration is embracing a curious and some would say dated argument as it builds its case to weaken federal rules championed by California that requires cars and SUVs to average 55 miles per gallon by 2025. It is warning that the fuel efficiency targets seen by most as key to meeting climate and air quality goals in California and nationwide could actually end up killing people. Taking a cue from auto dealers and free market think tanks skeptical of mainstream global warming science, Trump's Environmental Protection Agency chief Scott Pruitt is tossing aside reams of federal and California data showing the fuel economy standards are perfectly safe. Instead, Pruitt's directive this month to potentially scale back the fuel standard says an important factor is the need to re-examine safety issues. Okay. So it sounds like here, California is really, really upset about this. They want to go green and they want to get all these cars that are, got better emission going on and stuff like that. Why would they want to do that? Are they just a bunch of, as we know, everybody's a humanitarian, right? Everybody wants to protect the environment. Okay, well, if you've been to California, especially Los Angeles, their air is bad. To be fair, it is bad. However, let me just take you back over to, wrong link, now to the New York Post link that Q provided. And this is from August 5th, 2017. Sessions investigating slush fund used by left-wing groups. Attorney General Jeff Sessions is investigating up to $6 billion in legal settlement money that the Obama administration steered towards progressive causes and allies and left-wing advocacy groups. A memo sent to U.S. attorneys on July 28th, published Friday by Breitbart News, ordered a review of decades' worth of payouts that congressional Republicans have called a political slush funds. Former attorneys General Eric Holder, there he is, and Loretta Lynch, there she is, regularly arrange for major corporations to make large donations to left-leaning groups like Unidos US, formerly the National Council of La Raza, which means the race, and NeighborWorks America during settlement negotiations to end banking, environmental, civil rights, and other federal lawsuits. The groups getting the money were not victims in the cases or parties to the lawsuits, and Republicans say they had no proper claim to the cash. That means that all punitive damages awarded in the cases should have gone directly into the U.S. Treasury, says Republicans on the House Judiciary Committee who probed the scheme in 2015. Instead, $3 billion of the multi-billion-dollar 2013 agreements with Citigroup and Bank of America to settle cases related to mortgage-backed securities went to community organizing groups. The $17 billion Bank of America deal gave the bank extra credit if it donated $100 million or more to activist groups approved by the Department of Housing and Urban Development. The list included Unidos US, which advocates for legal immigrants. Oh, that's Jerry Brown's territory right there. The National Community Reinvestment Coalition, a left-leaning housing lobbyist group. Operation Hope, which pushes banks to lend to unqualified mortgage applicants in Los Angeles. Let me read that again. A left-leaning housing lobbyist group, Operation Hope, which pushes banks to lend to unqualified mortgage applicants in Los Angeles. You don't want to lend money to people who aren't qualified. You're not going to get your money back. What's going to happen? People are going to be in debt. And the Mutual Housing Association of New York, a spinoff of the controversial community organizing group Acorn. Now it gets interesting. Volkswagen was forced to spend $2 billion to promote and develop zero-emission vehicles as part of the 2016 settlement. Third-party donations have been included in federal settlements since the 1970s. Excuse me. So there's some good stuff in here, and it's not really much of a longer article here. But here's the point I think that at least that I'm seeing, and you can tell me what you see, but is it possible that Democrats are going after Pruitt simply because he's just not playing ball? He's not going to necessarily go green for the sake of these people getting money in their slush funds, because that's what it really means. Are these people really wanting to go green, or are they wanting us to donate our money into these green accounts, then end up going offshore to China or wherever it goes and makes all these left-wing groups super, super rich? You see what I'm saying there? Remember, that, let me just take you back there again. We were talking about Volkswagen. All right. Volkswagen was forced to spend $2 billion to promote and develop zero-emission vehicles as part of a 2016 settlement. Okay, well, guys, I don't know about you, but when I think of Volkswagen, I don't exactly think of, this black smoke coming out of this thing. Volkswagens are well-made vehicles. These guys got to spend $2 billion to promote and develop zero-emission vehicles. Okay, well, zero emissions is great, folks. It's fantastic. I don't think that's the point. Looks like the point, though, is that this money's not going to those things. It's going into slush funds, and it's going into these banks that push to lend unqualified mortgage applicants. Folks, this is why California is in such trouble, and the rest of the nation would have been in a lot of trouble as well, too. Okay, folks, those are your Q posts. I'm having a hard time speaking today. I'm hungry. Those are your Q posts for the evening. I want to leave you with one last thing, and it's a PDF. I'm not going to go way into it because I'm going to leave it down for you below. It's a 6-page document, and it's worth reading. It's not a really, really long read. I'm not going to read it all for you, but I just want to give you some highlights of this, okay? You may or may not have already seen this. This is from the the Honorable Jeff Sessions, Attorney General, the Honorable Christopher Wray, the Honorable John Huber. Dear Attorney General Sessions, Director Wray, and Mr. Huber, we write to refer the following individuals for investigation of potential violations of federal statutes. In doing so, we are especially mindful of the dissimilar degrees of zealousness that has marked the investigations into former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and the presidential campaign of Donald Trump, respectively, because we believe that those in positions of high authority should be treated the same as every other American. We want to be sure that the potential violations of law outlined below are vetted appropriately. Okay, and so it goes on to have a focus on a few people. Obviously, number one, former FBI Director James Comey. Then there's a little bit about him as well. Okay, and it goes on to talk about former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, former Attorney General Loretta Lynch, former Acting Director of the FBI Andrew McCabe, and then FBI Agent Peter Strzok and FBI Counsel Lisa Page. Okay. Accordingly, we refer to DOJ, all DOJ and FBI personnel responsible for signing the Carter Page warrant application that contained unverified and or false information for possible violations. Okay, folks, well, it looks like we got ourselves a little hunt. You're welcome to read that, and we may cover it in future posts, but I'm not going to do it today. I want to let you go ahead and read it, and maybe we'll talk about it later. Have a feeling we're going to be talking a lot about it soon. That is all I've got for you tonight. Yeah, I think that's about it. I know there's a lot of other news, but if you don't mind, I'm going to go eat this hot food that is right next to me. If you like the video, please click like, share, and subscribe. And if any new Q posts come up, I will be on it for you. Until next time, I am Sir Patrick Mack, and have yourself a great evening.